So, gentlemen, are you impressed by how peaceful Chinese history is? Chinese are peaceful people, right? They don't fight. And if they build weapons, it's only going to be for defensive purposes, right? See, this is the sad reality of Chinese history is, actually, if you study Chinese history, or if you watch the video carefully, Chinese history has only two modes. It's called the dynastic cycle. Either China collapses, or China expands. This has been the history of China. It goes through a 300-year cycle of collapsing, then coming back together. And as it comes back together, it builds weapons, and it conquers. It conquers everybody, all of its neighbors, until it can't conquer anymore. Then when they run out of countries to conquer, they collapse. And then it starts all over again. This has been Chinese history for the last 2,000 years here, but extends further than that for close to 5,000 years. And now we've come to the 21st century, and we see the massive military buildup of the Chinese nation. And we're supposed to believe that China has no intentions of using those weapons. This is what we are supposed to believe. And since China has no intentions of using those weapons, we have nothing to worry about. Right? You know, in 1939, the British Prime Minister of England, Prime Minister Chamberlain, went to Germany. And he sat down and he talked with Adolf Hitler. Then he came back to Great Britain and announced, I met Hitler. Hitler's a reasonable man. We have peace in our time. You remember those headlines? Did we? Did they? Did Europe see peace in its time? No, Europe, shortly after Chamberlain's visit, saw World War II. A lot of people died. And we know what people say today. You know, we know that people say that, well, China is so much part of the international trade system and there's so much international trade with China, there's no way they're going to do anything that stupid to jeopardize everything. But in 1939, which country was America's largest trading partner? If I remember correctly, it was a country called Nazi Germany. I believe Nazi Germany was also one of Great Britain's largest trading partners too at that time. But somehow that didn't prevent World War II. I don't know, you know, I don't like being the spoilsport at the party, and that's kind of like what I feel like. But I just hate to point out these inconvenient facts. Especially since these issues have such a profound bearing to all of us in the world. Because one sad reality of the world today is that China's an awful big country. And they are a dictatorship. In World War II, the Allies, were many times had more resources by many times over Germany. I mean, during World War II, Germany lost about 6 million men, right? Russia lost how many? Nearly 20 million. America lost 700,000. The Brits lost a few 100,000. But if you all added it all up, the Allies probably lost more than 3.5 times more men and equipment than Germany did. But in the end, they were able to win it. But in the case of China, China's got 1.5 billion people. And their military expansion is growing at about 12% per year rate. That means they're doubling military spending every 5 years. My question is, what nation is going to play the role of America in World War II? I mean, America's a strong country still, but it's proportionally not the same as World War II. If you want to balance China's power, you need quite a bit more military power than just America alone. And we know, for people who study history, what causes war. War is not caused by strength. It's caused by relative imbalance of power. When one side is a lot stronger than the other side and they think they can win, that's what causes war. And if we apply that analysis here in this situation, it would be hard for any rational person to say that peace is a certainty. So, what are we to do about it? Is there anything we can do about it? Should we resign ourselves to the fate that maybe the dictatorship China will conquer the world and we'll all have to become slaves to China? Is there hope for freedom? Is there hope for democracy? Can the free world muster the strength again to fight for human dignity and to preserve freedom in it? Preserve the right to believe in God. That's the question we need to ask ourselves. Is our freedom worth protecting? Is it? Then what are we going to do about it? There is no rule which says small countries must be weak. I mean, look at Israel. It's a very small country. It has only a population of 7.3 million people. 217 billion GDP. Only 16.2 billion in defense spending. It's surrounded by outnumbered by 500 to 1 by the surrounding Arab states. But I doubt anybody would call Israel weak. And in fact, if you look at Israel's capability, they are not weak. They can actually field 19 combat divisions. America, with its $600 billion defense spending, actually fields about 18. The Israeli Air Force can fly nearly 3,000 sorties a day. Qualitatively and quantitatively, they are superior to their surrounding neighbors. And as a result, Israel can defend itself. And this is the advantage which democracies and free people have. I mean, we know what the disadvantage of democracy is, right? It's this cumbersome decision-making process, which often fails, doesn't work so well. Very erratic, disorganized. But that's the price we pay for freedom. But if we understand the strength of free people and democracy, we can also understand the strength of democracy is that democracy has the potential to trust its citizens. This is a thing which dictatorships cannot do. Dictatorships, by their very nature, must control their citizens. And in order to control their citizens, they must control all the weapons in society. And as a result, that limits the amount of power that dictatorships can ultimately create. Democracies, on the other hand, if they choose to trust their people, can make asymmetric military power. And this is seen through countries like Israel and Switzerland. If the free nations of the world believe that their freedom is worth protecting, this time, more than any other time, they're going to have to prove it. If they don't want to lose their freedom, they're going to have to prove it. They're going to have to prove that they're willing to fight for freedom and to become strong for freedom. And if necessary, like Israel and Switzerland, distribute arms to all of their citizens to fight for freedom. This is the ultimate power of democracy. We can distribute arms to everybody. The whole nation can be the militia and defend the country. And if we are going to be serious about preserving peace, given the threat to peace that we are currently seeing and the massive power of communist China, all these issues must be seriously considered and debated now, before time runs out. You know, my father has worked for peace a long time, his whole life. And we know what most peace movements are like. They're very idealistic, and as a result, don't consider the practical realities of the world and world politics. But my father has always understood that peace doesn't come by itself. Peace doesn't just appear naturally. That it requires great investment and commitment, and it requires strength to create and preserve peace. This is why he has always supported free governments around the world who are interested in making power for democracies so that peace can be protected. And this understanding of what the world needs to maintain and to keep peace is deeply rooted in his understanding of God and theology, and in the teachings of the Unification Church and what we call the divine principle. You see, when we look at the situation of the original family of God, from the biblical point of view, Adam and Eve, and then their children, Cain and Abel, You know, we've all heard the story of Cain and Abel. How, you know, God loved Abel and hated Cain. When Abel made offerings to God, God accepted them and blessed Abel. And when Cain made offerings to God, God rejected them and hated Cain. And of course, our theology explains the reasons for this. But then we know what the result of the story is eventually Cain gets jealous and kills Abel. And then from there we have, you know, the rest of human history, which is all heartache, right? But one of the things which we understand from the principle point of view, or from the unification theology point of view, is that, you know, if we look at that situation, Cain killed Abel because Abel was weak. Although he was a good guy, he really loved God, and God blessed him, and God loved him because he was a good and gentle fellow. He died because he didn't have the strength to protect himself. And the principle explains that this history is what we see continuously repeated throughout history, starting from that individual level, from the family level, then to the societal level, and then to the national level and world level. We see the same problems. And we see the problems manifested in today's world, where we know who the good guys are. We know who loves their fellow man, and who wants to take care of their fellow man, and who cares about the feelings of other people and the rights of other people. We know the free people and the democracies represent the able world. Then we know there's a different world, which knows only power and self-interest, and the expansion of that power and self-interest. And we see that in the dictatorial states. And that is what we understand to be a Cain type. And we see the same situation occurring, that whenever Abel is weak, Cain kills Abel. It's not that complicated. The price which we will pay as democracy and free people, if we do not understand and value the blessings that God wants to give us, and if we do not become strong and maintain our strength, is that God will not be able to bless us. And instead of being able to live, we will die at Cain's hand. This is the price of weakness. The price of weakness for Abel is death. The price of weakness for our democracies and freedom is that we will lose them. My hope and my Father's hope is that people who have been blessed by God, people who love freedom and righteousness, that these people should understand the responsibility that comes with freedom. That free people should understand that God's blessing requires commitment. And that through their understanding, that they may become strong. And in their strength, that they can preserve peace for all the peoples. That's what we hope. So, the conclusion is, let us pursue peace through strength and create a world in accordance to God's image. Thank you very much.